What's up guys, this is Zero to my Kitsune, and if my microphone sounds weird, I'm still kinda fucking around with the settings. But anyway, let's talk about crowdfunding and the whole situation with breeding season. Now, first of all, no matter how angry you are, doxing is just not cool, man. This is the internet. People could get shot by cops over stuff like that. Don't do that. But anyway, I also have to say, when talking about crowdfunding, I do have a dog in this particular fight because I do plan on in the future opening up a Patreon to allow people to help support this channel and other endeavors I do, like game development and stuff, because I'm poor and poor people can't do cool things like make video games or create entire YouTube channels of quality content and stuff like that. So I'm just saying. Now, about breeding season. Man, I wish I had played the game. That art looks freaking sick. After actually looking back into it, I'm like, wow, this had some serious potential. And it's gone now. So, sad day for me. Now, I'm not gonna bother talking much about the actual people involved because I don't want to get in that catfight. But I have to say some things. So, from the info I acquired, I can say, man, if you're gonna try to strike someone down, you need to strike hard because the counterattack will be painful. And the reason why I'm saying that is because after reading the actual rebuttal to the initial person's claims, I can't help but feel the artist was actually correct in his actions. I mean, I'll link the Tumblr post below, but y'all gotta read that to get some clarity, and I recommend reading both sides of it so you can create a fully functioning opinion. Yeah, let's go with that. But the management of this project really seemed like it was shit. Like, wow. But aside from that, man, you need to outline those contracts clearly and think forward. A contract is supposed to, cradle you in case certain things happen. And in this one, it seems like it was more used as like a weapon. At least it seems like that on one end. But you've got to plan an emergency. And what I'm saying there is, if your game was gonna go ass up and ready to be fucked, you've got to have some protection. You've got to think of a way, what happens if I lose my developer? What happens if I lose my artist? What happens if I lose A, B, C? Do I have D, E, F? And the creator didn't seem to have D, E, F, or even A, B, C, or any of the alphabet letters. So that's what I gotta say about that. But back on to just crowdfunding in general. This situation seems to follow a real trend with crowdfunding projects that fail. Someone has a really nice idea that people like and can get around. That's the whole core of crowdfunding. Then they try to expand upon it, constantly trying to give people more and more so they can give more and more money. And in the end, they start failing to reach deadlines they set because they don't understand how much time, money, and effort goes into each little expansion they made. Something they think takes 3 days actually takes a month. And oops. And then ultimately, the project's either released broken, or the game's outright cancelled and everyone ends up with egg on their face. But I need to say something that I don't know many people are saying after all this. We have so many failures, like My Number 9 or breeding season. We sometimes forget about the successes, like Undertale and Wasteland 2, both games that I need to play and haven't. Oopsie. Our brains remember, the bad so much more clearly than it remembers the good. So you've got to try to remember the good and remember why people crowdfund. And speaking of crowdfunding, that should always be something you do with the extra money you have, the money you can risk losing on. I'm poor. I've only crowdfunded one thing in my life. I'm sorry, I really have. And I got paid on it. I crowdfunded Skullgirls back in the day. 2 things, because I also funded Indivisible a little bit. Okay, 2 things. But I got a return on Skullgirls, and that was a real risk. I didn't have that money to give, so I only gave a little bit. But I probably shouldn't have done that. You should only be spending the money, crap, we're past 5 minutes, the money that you have in excess. Don't be spending your bill money, don't be spending your savings money. Only do it on something you absolutely really freaking believe in, or something with the money you have extra. But on another note, I don't understand why people are using Patreon to fund games. I mean, Patreon feels more like a service thing. Like, you pay a Patreon fund to get incremental things, like, you know, a comic book, you pay for it page by page, or a show, you pay for it episode by episode every month. Or simply, you know, throwing money at a person you like so they can keep doing the things that they love. You see where my bias comes from that. But for a game, I'd still use Kickstarter, Indiegogo, because you only have paid that money once it has met the goal that the person has set. And sure, that runs into the problem of the person setting it too low so they'll make sure they have the money. And, you know, there are way more stories on that one than I feel like going into. Though probably the reason why people use Patreon to fund these types of games is because I don't think you can really use Kickstarter and Indiegogo to fund adult games. Another way big companies try to limit the expansion of sexuality to other mediums. What'd I say? Either way, that's my take on it. So leave in the comment section your thoughts about this whole situation, who's right, who's wrong. I'd love to hear about it, and hell, maybe I'll throw in one of your comments into the next video if I do another expansion on this. Either way, I'll see you guys next time. 7 minutes. Nailed it. Didn't. This was supposed to be 5 minutes.